Welcome to Let's Get Creative with Sam, the podcast. I'm Sam Rawlings and I'm a children's creative counsellor. That means I help kids unlock their imaginations and explore the amazing world of creativity. But being creative can also be a great way to take care of our minds and feelings, which is super important. In this podcast, we'll be doing all sorts of fun things. We'll be sharing creative tips and tricks that can help us feel good, interviewing other awesome creative folks in the industry who use creativity for mental well-being, and maybe even doing some creative challenges together that can help us express ourselves. So buckle up, get ready to unleash your creativity and explore how it can help us feel our best, and let's have some fun. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Get Creative with Sam, and that's me. I'm Sam and I'm a children's creative counsellor, and I support children 6 to 19 around anxiety, stress, school issues, lots of different things that might come up for families. I'm also part of an amazing collaboration called Power of Three, and we run day retreats for women who might need some support, as in with their well-being. So just that time to relax and have some peace. And today I have my amazing guest, Sarah Davies. Good morning, Sarah.
Morning.
So would you like to introduce yourself to everybody who's listening or watching today?
Hi, and thanks for having me on this podcast, Sam. I'm Sarah Davies and I'm the parenting copywriter, and I write website and blog posts for clients, predominantly people whose ideal clients are parents. And I also run a networking and membership called Parenting Business Connections, and that's to help people who are business owners working mostly on their own, to give them that support with networking, but also with co-working, brainstorming and things like that. It's a real sense of a community group. I'm also a mum to a teenager who has autism and ADHD, and I've been recently diagnosed with ADHD myself as well.
Thank you so much, Sarah. So that sounds like to me that you have a full-on life.
Yeah, and I forgot to say as well, I'm also the author of Baby Daze, a book for new and expectant mums.
And it's a beautiful book. Thank you for sending me a copy. I've had some real giggles reading it. It kind of reminded me of when my children were young, but particularly my grandchildren, the youngest being 1, so still at that kind of stage.
Yes, and I wrote it unexpectedly while up for the 3 a.m. feeds. So it wasn't a planned book. It was very much spontaneous in the moment, and therefore very real, I think, as well, because all those emotions were really there. And it reflects the rollercoaster of parenting a newborn from the first scan to the end of maternity leave and all the craziness in between.
Yeah, and that in itself is its own journey, isn't it? You know, from like finding out that you're pregnant to going through like prior to birth and then all the build up to that. And did you feel that like having been pregnant, that it was like, did you find it easy? Was it difficult?
I mean, for me, the journey to getting pregnant was long and difficult. My husband and I met each other in our mid-20s, and then in my early 30s, I was ill. Had appendicitis followed by laryngitis and laryngitis again, and I ended up with ME for 3 years. And I went from being a busy and active teacher, absolutely loving my job and having all kinds of extra responsibilities, which I loved too. I just got married. We were planning on starting a family together. I had a busy, active social life, and I was sporty too. I did a lot of sport, and I was really living life to the full. And when this illness hit, they said it's the adrenaline, because I was constantly going along at a high pace.
Yeah.
when I couldn't, because I was physically ill, with appendicitis and everything, I was still getting the adrenaline coursing through my body, and that's what caused the ME symptoms. But it meant that I went from being as I was and absolutely loving life to needing a stick for balance and to walk to the end of the street with. I couldn't have phone calls with friends or listen to the radio or watch TV or anything like that because I didn't have the focus and the concentration. My husband was then sort of having to help with a lot more jobs and things because I couldn't really look after myself. I didn't have the energy and I didn't have the focus, so I couldn't cook because I'd forget I'd put the cooker on. And going from being so, having lots of people relying on me as a teacher in my teaching job to that kind of state was awful. And I just got married and I wanted to be the wife I wanted to be. I wanted to be a parent, and suddenly it was like, can't even think about having a baby because I was too dependent on my husband. And I did everything the hospital recommended. They were saying, go for short walks, go for relaxation sessions and all of those things. And I did everything they said. And they said, you might just have to learn to live with the symptoms. And I was in my early to mid 30s and I was thinking, nah, that's not happening. I want my life back. Yeah. And I'd done everything they'd suggested. And then my husband came across, I went from teaching full time to not being able to do anything. And then I got a job as a library assistant, 10 hours a week with split shifts. And I tried to go back to teaching, but I couldn't even remember how I drove home. It was just awful. And that was just part-time. So I got this job as a library assistant because they understood that my illness, that it was a physical illness, and they helped put things in place for me so that I could do that job. And my husband came across this clinic and, our savings had gone right downhill. I'd gone from full-time teaching to 10 hours a week on practically the minimum wage. And he's a self-employed, so working for himself, it was harder too. And we came across this clinic and it was a combination of osteopathy, hypnotherapy, neuro-linguistic programming and EFT. And at first I thought, how can I go and sit through a 2-hour seminar with a small group of people when I can't have a conversation with a friend? Mm-hmm. But I was willing to give it a go. And it absolutely worked. I thought because we had to go down to London for it and stay in a B&B. And I was thinking well, if I'm exhausted by it, I'll probably have what normally happens. I fling myself into things and then 2 days later, I can't stand up and can't have a conversation. Yeah. So I went along and I gave it my all and I did all the tasks that I was asked to do. And rather than feeling exhausted, I actually began to feel a little more energized. And I ran for a bus. My husband did a double take. It's like, yeah. And then I sat in a busy coffee shop on Oxford Street with all the Christmas throng of activity when I couldn't normally cope with the supermarket. And I was okay. And I was all right in the sessions. And I kept thinking, when we get back to Leeds in a couple of days' time, I'm probably going to have the most almighty slump. But I stayed positive. And that was in 2006. And I carried on for months after doing the daily exercises. And every time I was struggling, I did these exercises. And for a lot of people, it might sound really woo. It might sound just a bit like, well, people told me, they said to me, you can't cure a physical illness with all that kind of woo stuff. And it's great that Sarah's better now, but she obviously didn't have ME. Well, I had hospital diagnosed ME. I had it for 3 years. That's exactly what it was. But the combination of the physical and the mental side of things together, the combination this guy put together for this clinic absolutely worked. And that was 2006. I've never had a relapse. I've climbed Helvellyn since. I went back to volleyball just before I was 40. And so, started my own business, wrote my book. And, it's a case of when I was promoting my book, it's like when I had ME, I couldn't read a book or listen to the radio. Now I've written a book, I've been interviewed live on the radio. And then when I got over the ME and we'd had 6 months where I didn't have a relapse, we thought, right, well, we want to have a baby. Time's ticking on. And then it didn't happen for us. And because I was in my later 30s by then, they said we should have tests and things like that. Everything came back fine, but it still wasn't happening. So then we went down the infertility route. And so when I was 40, I got pregnant, and it was like, this is just fantastic. And then very soon into the pregnancy, we thought I'd lost the baby.
Okay.
And they said that they said still hanging on in there, but I was internally bleeding and they would need to scan me every couple of weeks. But when we thought we'd lost him, we were like devastated, because to be told after waiting 7 years for a baby, to be told I think about 6 years then for a baby, to be told that I was actually expecting at 40 was just the best news. So then a couple of weeks, like a week, I think it was about a week and a half later, thinking I'd lost the baby was just, everything just came crashing around. And I thought, if I can't be a parent, what am I here for? What's everything all about? And I was thinking, right, I need to go back in. I need to think of like plan B, just in case. And anyway, they did the scan, and all was I was still bleeding for the first 13 weeks of the pregnancy. And then in my 13-week scan, the week of my 40th birthday, they said the internal bleeding stopped and your baby's fine.
Oh, that's amazing.
So it was just like, I wasn't bothered about anything else with the pregnancy, and I didn't get morning sickness or anything like that. I was lucky there. And it was just a case of like, I was just over the moon that I had this chance. And so that was the start of the pregnancy.
What a beautiful story so far. Continue.
Yeah, I mean, my friend at the time, who sadly passed away a few years ago now, she used to refer to him as a tenacious little jelly bean. She's hanging on in there.
Yeah.
And he's nearly 14 now, and he's still such a stoical little soul. But then he actually came after waiting 7 years for our baby. He actually came 4.5 weeks early.
He'd had enough of waiting.
Yeah, I think he must have thought, like, oh, they've waited long enough. It's time. So that was all very crazy. And basically I was still working at the library part-time because I loved that job. And I thought, do you know what? After I got my life back, I thought, I'm not going back to full-time teaching. I did go back to teaching because I loved it, but I decided to go back part-time instead and still continue with my job as a library assistant. So I started off by doing supply. I worked as an HLTA for a bit, and then I went back on supply. So I worked part-time on supply and part-time as a library assistant. And that week, the week I'm going to tell you about, when Matthew arrived, I had been doing supply, but the day he was born, I was working at the library, and I had a shift 10 till 4, and my husband was away sleeping overnight on a boat, and like, he was just having a night away before the baby came, thinking like, I've got time before the baby comes.
Yeah, definitely.
So he was going to be coming home that evening about 6, and I was finishing work at 4 for that shift. And I wasn't on maternity leave because at that point didn't feel like I needed to be. And anyway, work was fine, started work fine. And then I thought, right, lunchtime, I'm going to nip down to the post office to post my friend's birthday present. And then I thought, actually, I'm not sure. I think I don't feel like walking down there. And that was about sort of 12, 1-ish. 10 to 2, I started with these odd twinges. I thought that was strange.
Yeah.
and thought nothing of it, just carried on. And then they became more frequent, more intense. And I started to get a little bit anxious. So I rang my husband and he said, oh, don't worry, it's probably those Braxton Hicks.
Yeah.
And, you know, you'll be fine. And I carried on working and serving customers. And then at one point I was leaning on the counter having contractions, because it turned out to be contractions. But he said, ring in the hospital if you're worried. So I rang the hospital and they said, oh, you're probably fine, but go home, have a warm bath, give us a ring in a couple of hours, but you shouldn't really be at work. So I rang my in-laws, who were 75 and 80-ish at the time, and asked them if they'd come and pick me up because I didn't feel fit to drive. Mm-hmm. And I asked my husband to come home a bit earlier. And by the time, like, I was leaning on the counter having these contractions at one point between serving customers, and this man said, are you okay? I was like, well, I know it's not very professional of me, but I think I'm having a baby. And he was like, oh my God, I'm out of here. And my colleagues were flapping around me. And anyway, my contractions were 3 minutes apart by the time my in-laws came for me at 3:10. They were, sorry, five minutes apart at that point. They were 3 minutes apart by the time I got back from Horsforth back to Armley, where I live. And I got to hospital fully dilated, pushing already. And bearing in mind, I left work at 3:10. I had my son at 5:30. So yeah. It was incredibly speedy. And she says, well done, you've done all your labouring at home. I was like, been at work. She was like, what have you taken? Oh, nothing. And it was just absolutely mad. But then was a bit scary as well, because he needed a few puffs of air and they put him in neonatal because there was no room in transitional care. Yeah. And so it was quite dramatic, but I didn't have time to worry. And I'm quite an anxious, fretful kind of person. And it all just kicked into place. And I hadn't had time to go to hypnobirthing classes because we hadn't heard about them till too late. But I did do a hypnobirthing CD and read the booklet. And I think that really helped me to,
yeah, definitely,
to be calm. So it was quite, I had 5 days in hospital and then we brought him home. But yeah, It was quite intense, really, being a new mum at 40 after everything we'd been through, and then the unexpectedly early birth and all that went along with that as well. It was quite challenging from day one, before day one of being a parent. So yeah, but I feel so lucky that I'm able to be a mum.
I love that. Do you feel that you were supported, like once you'd had your baby, that, you know, because by what you're saying to me, I'm hearing that it was a real roller coaster to get pregnant because of like your health, you know, and everything. And then during the pregnancy, obviously you was working, so you felt healthy in yourself. And then obviously you had an early labour, which sounds it went relatively smooth in some ways, because, like, you know, you said you'd done most of it yourself by the time medical staff arrived. And basically then obviously sometimes while we're in it, adrenaline just goes up to the roof, doesn't it? It just keeps us going and going and going. And when you talked about, like, when you were a teacher, you were going and going and going and going, and it's when we stop that it impacts us the most. So once you were home and you'd got your baby, you know, did you feel supported then? Was that when it was more difficult for you, would you say?
I did have some support. I mean, my husband's amazing. I'm very lucky that I've got an amazing husband.
Yeah.
My parents were far away, but my in-laws were fantastic.
Yeah.
So I was lucky from that point of view, but they, you know, they were very much older, you know, at 75 and 80. That, you know, in terms of how they absolutely adore our son, you know, sort of adored our son. And they helped us wherever they could, which was, you know, we were so lucky that they would pitch in and do what they could to help and support us. Anxiety wise, I was anxious, so I did get some support there. I didn't have anything like postnatal depression. There was nothing like that. But for my anxiety, I did attend a couple of sessions for support. But I think it was just the whole whirlwind, you know, because when you just get home, and I just remember sitting there with my husband and looking at our baby in the car seat on the living room floor. And it's like, now what?
Yeah.
Because I'd been to one of the antenatal sessions, but the other one was after I'd had him. And I'd been in hospital 5 days, and we were just coming out at the same time as the hospital session was for the second antenatal class.
Oh, goodness.
The nurses, I said, do I go down now then, do you think, to the antenatal? And they're like, nah, you know it all now, you've done it. But I mean, I breastfed my baby, and I wanted to breastfeed, and I knew it could be challenging, because that was the best advice somebody had given me, was if you want to breastfeed, persevere, because it's not as naturally, like, you're not necessarily going to be as naturally able to do it as you might think, with it being a natural thing.
Yeah.
And then it latched on in delivery, but then he was upstairs in neonatal, 3 floors up from where I was, and they called me up to feed him at midnight, and he wouldn't feed. And I tried for 3 hours, and I just rang my husband at 3 o'clock in the morning in tears. I said, I've let you down, I've let him down, because they said they'd have to tube feed him formula. But what I didn't realise was that I could then go on to breastfeed when my milk came through. And so that's what I did. And I had ups and downs with mastitis and all that kind of thing. But it was positive. And that's kind of when the book came, because he was 4 months old. And I think all those feelings and emotions that I'd had were just all there. And sitting there in the dark, in the silence at 3 o'clock in the morning, just appreciating being Matthew's mum. It was just, these poems came into my head out of nowhere, and I'd never written poems before. Wasn't a writer. My degree was English, but you know, I'd studied all the highfalutin academic stuff. As a teacher, I was teaching children to write their own poetry, and writing the odd one because it was easier just to write one of my own that had all the things in I needed. If like an autumn poem with all the different bits and pieces in, like I might just write one. So I'd done that occasionally, but these were rhyming poems about my new mum experiences. And when I put my son down after the feed, I wrote them down, and it kept happening. And by the time he was 8 months old, I got 40 poems that reflected the journey from the first scan to the end of maternity leave and everything in between. And I think it was my mind's way of processing everything that I was going through.
Yeah.
And it was a way of kind of offloading all those pressures and thoughts, and the poems, they're like the awe moments of the first scan, and like seeing my baby for the first time, and you know, just sitting there in the nighttime feeds. But then the craziness of the punamis, and you know, the first one where you think there's something seriously wrong with your baby, because you could never have imagined so much poo coming out of one small person. And that kind of thing. So all that real roller coaster of being a new mum. So can I share
it's so lovely, absolutely, for who's listening or watching today. Yeah, definitely. So anyone's in particular that that you feel would be good to share today?
Yeah, I mean, like getting to know you was the first, and it starts with the scan and seeing the beating of your tiny little heart, knowing that it's really only just the very start. So, you know, that kind of emotional poem, through to, you know, going to mums and babies groups, health visitor, you know, grandparents, feeling like a human milk machine. Those are the sorts of poems that are in the book. And then my son, when the book came out, my son was 5 and in year 1, and he said, could he take it in for show and tell? And his teacher said, well, if there's anything that's appropriate for him to read out, then yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so of course he chose to read what we call in our family the two poo poems. And The class loved them, and the teacher said that Matthew sat there and did a whole Q&A. The class were asking him loads of questions about his mummy writing a book. And she said he was fantastic and so proud. And she came to me at the end of the day and she said, I've just got a few questions that the class have still got that Matthew wasn't able to answer. So, yes, this first one, nappy days. Oh my goodness, he's not happy. He has got a filthy nappy. He just let out such a trump. The explosion made me jump. Catapulted him off my knee. Hardly dared to look and see. It's on his back and legs as well. I can't describe the awful smell. I had better make it snappy. His feet are getting in the nappy. I'm worried about his poorly tum. Don't want to seem a fussy mum, but it has given me a fright. I want to check that he's all right. Doctor said that this much poo is common. It's what babies do.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love the humour in it as well, but a mum being a mum, a grandma myself as well, you can just visualize it really clearly. Like,
yeah,
what do I do now?
Yeah, you know, it's the panic, the chaos, the practicality, and then the fear that something's wrong. Yeah. So yeah, roly-polies. We can't change your nappy when you're rolling round and round. We weren't anticipating this new game that you found. When you first did roly-polies, you'd hear us say, well done. But in the middle of a change, for us it's not much fun. You seem to think it's funny. Why aren't we laughing too? But we can't have roly-polies with a nappy full of poo. You're flipping your legs over and your bottom's in the air. Nappy change a two-man job, we have no hands to spare. Then when the struggle's over, you look up with a grin, as if to say, we're done now, let the wriggling begin.
That just reminds me of when, particularly my youngest grandson, he just would not lay still at all. I mean, he is now 14, so yeah, but he would crawl away all the time. And you almost feel like you have to bring him back, don't you, kind of, and make it a game and make it fun. But when you know, if I think about, like, I was a young mum. I was 18 when I had my first daughter. So you're worried, aren't you, that you're going to hurt them as well by pulling them too much. And I'm sure you had those like thoughts as well. It doesn't matter what age you are. When you're a mum, you've got to do it, and you've got to find a way that works for you.
Yeah. And you liked, I know you liked Phone Call to a Friend.
Yes.
So, hi, yes, I can chat. So phone call to a friend is basically a conversation between, you know, me or new mum and a friend. So, hi, yes, I can chat. How about that? He's enjoying his feeding time, so it won't be the usual pantomime. Oh, did she really? That'll cost her dearly. Sorry, I've just heard him cry. He might settle. It's worth a try. It's all right now. He's playing. Now, what were you saying? Oh, hang on a minute. He's got his hands in it. I'll ring you later. And yeah, it kind of encapsulates life, doesn't it? You know, any conversation that you're trying to have with somebody whilst parenting.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that your book is about babies and things, but as a parent, it continues, doesn't it? I mean, yeah, my daughters are in their 30s and you're still a parent. You're always one, aren't you? And it's different stages in life bring up different issues and things. So, but this is so beautiful. I love it. I love it. So we will make sure that the link for your book is in the show notes as well. So if there's anybody who'd like to order it, where can we get it from, Sarah?
It's available from Amazon, and it's the second edition, and it's got it's got a different publisher for the second edition, and it's got little it's kind of been revamped, so it's got like a nice little menu from there. Nice back cover and little baby footprints for the page numbers and stuff like that. She's done a great job with it. But yeah, it's available from Amazon, and it's the second edition. I've sold over 1,300 copies. Wow. And it got recommended in Mother and Baby magazine in their 3 of the Best Funny Books feature. And that led to doing talks and radio interviews and articles and things. So I did talks at Mothercare for new and expectant mums, and they said if I could talk about some aspect of being a new mum, then they were happy for me to promote my book there. So I was speaking to groups of 80 parents to be, and at Mothercare, and I was talking about the hurdles of and overcoming the hurdles of being a breastfeeding mum. So I talked about what happened with my baby, and then how they don't always tell the things they don't always tell you, like the fact that although he had to be tube fed formula because he was prem, I could still breastfeed later. Nobody had told me that, so I just went into like devastation when I was told, you know, I'm going to have to tube feed him formula. I was like, oh. And you know, I know breastfeeding doesn't work out for everybody, but for me, it hurt that I couldn't do what I wanted to do and be able to breastfeed him. So I was able to talk about those hurdles, how even when you get mastitis, you can still continue to breastfeed and you can get that support and all of those things. So I was able to say, yes, there are hurdles, yes, there are challenges, but it's possible to overcome them, and to be kind to yourself and to get the support from others and who helped me through it. And to be honest, I couldn't sell my books actually at Mothercare, but I could give people a leaflet if they wanted to go and buy it later. But what was wonderful was the expectant mums coming up to me at the end and saying, thank you for that. I've been so anxious about breastfeeding. And for some people, it was their society, their family background. They were being pressurized into breastfeeding, and people going on about it a lot before they'd even had their baby. And this one lady, she said, you know, the society I'm from, I'm really anxious. And she said, you've just put my mind at ease totally. And I had second time mums come in and saying, I wish I'd heard this before, and thank you. And I had grandparents who were there with their daughter who was expecting, saying that advice is just amazing. And I just felt that I could help other people with my experience. And that's why the book came out in the first place, because people said, you know, your poems are amazing and they could really help other parents who are going through this. And to, you know, to kind of help their feelings. And I did a talk with new mums. And these mums had babies of under 9 months, and the babies were there too. So it was like a mums and babies session. And we talked about all the feelings and emotions that you have as a new mum. And I got them to write on Post-its anonymously each different emotion that they'd experienced in that time. And I stuck them on a big notice board so everybody could see the range of different emotions. And I shared the poems with them as a starting point to get them to open up. And I made sure, because I'm not a counsellor myself, I said, you know, if anything arises, these are numbers that you can turn to for help and support, you know, all these different places that they could go, because, you know, obviously for some it can bring up a lot of things. And I said, you know, I gave them time during the session to write to the baby or to their partner or to somebody who hadn't really come to grips with what they were going through, to get things out, or to draw a picture, had colouring pencils if they wanted to draw, because sometimes just getting things out of your system can really help you to come to terms with your feelings and emotions. So yeah.
Beautiful. And if you think about like writing the book for you, you know, writing those poems, that was your way of like offloading what was going on for you. And you use your teaching skills, all your teaching skills and experience to support these ladies as well. So would you say that was like the start of your business then?
Absolutely. I mean, for a long time, I've been thinking I wanted to come out of the education system, because as much as I love teaching, I didn't like having to hothouse children with complex grammatical terms and, you know, kind of subject them to interactive whiteboards in every lesson. And that's what I was told pretty much I had to do. And I was creative and I used to get results. I was a year 6 teacher, And I loved it because even though we did SATs, we had fun, we were creative, they wanted to learn. It was, you know, I was inspiring them to want to learn. We had debates, we worked with novels, we did bits of drama. If they were going to be writing a script, we acted it out. If they had to rewrite a traditional fairy story or whatever, you know, I kind of had them acting out Goldilocks and the Three Bears and things like that. We had fun, but I got the academic results as well. Ofsted said, you know, I was achieving amazing results with the children as a literacy lead and things like that. I loved my job, but I hated the way the education system was going, and I was really sad about that.
Yeah.
And so I was looking for something else that could light me up like teaching had done. And I'd written articles, I'd been interviewed live on BBC Radio Leeds, Talk Radio Europe, BBC Radio Gloucestershire, which is where I'm from originally. And I'd started writing articles and guest posts and things. And my husband said, you could be a copywriter. And I said, I don't even know what one of those is. At that time, no idea, because I'd been teaching, wasn't in business. And so I said, it was a customer of his, was a food copywriter. And I said, well, that sounds great. I said, right up my street in a lot of ways, but wouldn't I have to go back and work, like learn in a 9-to-5 job? And having my son is autistic with ADHD, and I just thought, like, I want to be around to be mum. I don't want to be working all those hours. So I looked into it anyway, and during lockdown I was able to do an online course in becoming a copywriter and retrain with a mentor who was fantastic. And I just felt like, you know, I mean, I said to my husband, like, what, I need a name for my business, and he was like, you know, you could be sarahcopy.com, something catchy like that. I said, but I want to work with parenting related businesses, because I still miss that interaction and that feeling like I was doing something important by supporting children and families. So I niched from day one as a parenting copywriter, and I work predominantly with people whose ideal clients are parents, but I also work with a lot of coaches as well, because writing copy for parents are busy. It needs to be clear and concise, but it also needs to inspire trust and confidence. And that's a really delicate balance in copy. And so when I was kind of talking about loving working with the clients I work with and helping them to really connect with the people who need their products and services the most, because I see business owners who've got wonderful ideas and products and services, and then I see parents who really need them, but they don't know they're out there, because the bit in the middle is the struggle with the messaging and the clarity and confidence and sales and things like that. So I felt, with my experience having marketed my book as well and sold copies of my book, I could help people going through the sales and marketing side and help them with the copy because I was used to communicating with the parent audience for 20 plus years as a teacher, and then through my book. So I knew how to connect with parents, and so I niched from day one, and it's been, you know, the best thing I could have done. I've worked with a feather hat pin designer, a financial advisor, and an event planner, as well as all the parenting related people and the coaches, because people see that I love what I do. And I think, like you said, with the teaching spilling over into doing the workshop with the parents, the new mums, it's the same with my copywriting, because people, I think, imagine a copywriter sitting working from a brief in an office, and actually it's the human interaction that I love about my job. It's the 60 to 90 minute call where I sit there with a potential client and we talk about the journey that's brought them to where they are now, their ideal clients, what gives them their biggest buzz in the working day, their motivation behind their business, their unique selling points, which is everything in their life that they've brought to the business with them, not just their qualifications or their client experience, but it's their vision, their values, all of those things.
Yeah.
And I sit there in that conversation for 60 to 90 minutes with my client, and I listen to the language that they use, the words they use, their passion, their motivation, and I do all that, and then I'm able to write reflecting their voice, their vision and their values, and speaking directly to the people they want to reach. So it's that side of things that I love about my copywriting job, because you need to listen, as well as write. And I love that connection. And that's why I started my Parenting Business Connections group as well.
Amazing. And when while you're talking, you know, I can hear your passion in your voice, and, you know, just the way that the whole part of you, do you know what I mean? The whole aura of you, just that your energy is just so beautiful and caring and understanding. And I think that's one of the biggest things, isn't it? I am a counsellor, as you know, and those skills that you use for your copywriting, I would say I use them in my counselling as well. So it's that, you know, the biggest thing for me is I don't do the copy. I write my own notes, but they're not. I do reports, so I suppose in some ways in that way, but it's very different to copywriting for what you do. And I think it's an incredible thing to be able to do for people, because, I mean, I have support with my social media and things like that. And I understand sometimes we don't have the words as parents, as counsellors, coaches, whoever. For me, it's hearing here, but then sometimes getting it on paper or on a document or wherever it needs to be is the hardest, because it's like almost them brain connections are not here.
And the hardest copy I have to write is my own. I don't like doing my own marketing. And people might think that sounds crazy, but it's you know, one of the things I've just finished putting together. Well, I've run copy coaching workshops to help people to write their own copy by going through the prompt phases with them, and then giving them structure to slot it into, so they can write their draft copy within an hour of the workshop. And I've done it as live workshops, and I've just videoed them in the last few weeks, and done the edits so that they're ready to go up onto my website soon, to give people that support to write their own, and to have that confidence, to have the knowledge that they need to do that, because not everybody's ready yet to work with a copywriter.
No.
But I think, you know, when people talk to me, they say, oh my goodness, you've written my website copy. It sounds like I've written it myself. It's speaking to my ideal clients. It's selling my products or my services, but without hard sell or sounding salesy. And you've done all that from a little chat that we had, because I don't like give people a list of questions to get, you know, I don't like the idea of a brief.
I would find that overwhelming.
Yeah, me too. But I have a conversation, and we share and we chat, and I write about 9 pages of notes while we're having the conversation. And it's one of my favorite testimonials. I've got so many beautiful testimonials, and I've got like 30 Google reviews as the parenting copywriter, but so many more comments, testimonials and reviews and things. And this one customer, a nanny in America, she was just such a lovely, caring, kind person, and she'd been a nanny for years, and she was starting an agency, other nannies. And she said, I grill them so hard. She said, you can teach parents, you can teach people to change a diaper, obviously American, but you can't teach empathy. And she said, I need nannies who care and who understand, and who are the right people for my mums, because I can't serve all the mums. So I have to find the right people who can do it in the way I would do it. And I wrote her copy, and she just sent me a message, and she said, thank you. That's perfect. You've captured the essence of me. And I was like, this wonderful lady who she said, if I could work for my clients for free, I would. I just love it. And she helped bring up her own sisters, younger siblings. And she was just such a lovely person. And when she said in those words, you've captured the essence of me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it hit me right in the heart. Because yes, it's just a piece of writing. But to me, it's helping those potential clients to realize what an amazing person she is.
Yeah.
And how supported they're going to be. And so, yeah. And that's how my Facebook group came about, Parenting Business Connections, because people said, oh, you should start a Facebook group. And I'd been a copywriter for about 3 months at that point. And they were saying, teaching other people how to write copy. And I was thinking, seriously? I mean, this is 5 years ago now. I've been doing the job for ages. But at that point, I thought, it's not something I want to do. I'm not wanting to teach people to write copy. That doesn't really fit with me. I'm new to the job myself. So I set up all the stuff behind the scenes, all the tech you have to put in place to start a Facebook group. I was going to go on one of these 5-day challenges, and I thought, no, I don't want to do it. It's going to take me ages. I haven't got loads of tech skills, and I'm shelving the idea. And then I was at a Mums in Business social, and I just thought, do you know what? I know what's missing. There's groups for mums in business, plenty of them, but there aren't groups of people who work with parents. And I want to be in that group because a lot of my clients, they worked with parents, but they were parents themselves as well.
Yeah.
And I thought, I want to be in that group, so I started. And 2 days later, my group was up and running.
Wonderful.
And I rang somebody who was a client of mine, and I said, will you join my Facebook group? Because obviously just me in it at the moment. And I just want to know there's one other person. Well, now there's 2,300. And it just grew. And the sense of community in there was fantastic from the beginning. And people were really connecting. They were forming collaborations. And I thought, I want to introduce them to other, to each other, like via Zoom, not just in print.
Yeah.
Not just online or whatever. So it's like I want to run some Zoom sessions for free, just to bring people together. And because I realised the benefit of networking for my business.
Yeah.
And even though I'm socially shy and quite anxious, I thought this is something I want to do because my drive comes from helping others. So although I might find something really challenging, like a podcast interview, it's like, for me, it's challenging and it gets the adrenaline flowing and everything, but I can see the benefits of doing things. So I thought, right, I'm going to do this. And I had so many people want to come to the sessions that I thought this isn't going to work because like I was running about 3 40-minute Zoom sessions a week for 4 to 5 people. And those people wanted to come back and they were telling everybody else. And I was thinking I can't do this alongside my business. So I thought I'm going to have to start it as a subscription membership so that I can buy in support with things like MailerLite and how to do breakout rooms, to pay for the additional Zoom, that kind of thing. And I had 20 people who wanted to join straight away. And so we started that, and it was 3.5 years ago now. And it started with networking on a weekly basis, but not going in and pitching in 60 seconds. We don't do that. We network in mini breakout rooms, 3 to 4 people for 15 minutes. And we used to do that with 3 lots of breakout rooms in a session every week. And then I realized that people needed a bit more support because we were all solo business owners who were struggling with tech or struggling with messaging or struggling with social media or struggling with graphics and logos and things like that, or just struggling with juggling parenthood with everything else. So I started doing weekly business brainstorming mastermind sessions where we all pitch in and help each other out. So we've got a website developer, we've got a social media expert, we've got people that can help. So somebody will come with a question, they'll chip in. We all don't know what we don't know. So we all learn from the sessions, whether we've brought a question or not. And we have co-working sessions for accountability too. So it's become a really strong community. And then people there are those networking opportunities because people can come for a free taster, but they've also got that weekly support for co-working and business brainstorming too. They've got the community where they know people that they can turn to for help and advice, rather than having to look somebody up on Google, not know how reputable they are, and like end up having to pay a fortune for what might be just a small piece of advice. So I do that, and I love that too, because I feel like I'm helping.
Yeah.
And I feel like everything I'm doing now in my business lights me up because I'm helping, because I feel like I'm achieving something. And that matters. And I've had copywriting clients. One client, she called me her business angel. A press, couldn't think of the words then, press release statement for her, and she sent it to a journalist, and she was interviewed live on BBC Two TV News with a full business plug. And she called me a business angel because she used to just ring me or email me or message me and say, I'm thinking of doing this in my business, what do you think? And so now I've run a group program for people to help them write copy, and I write these copy coaching workshops. And the one about writing your own landing page draft in under an hour helps people who are struggling with the whole idea of sales. They don't want to do the hard sell. And I talk to them about how actually sales is ensuring that the person who really needs what you're offering can access it, because if they don't know you're there, they can't access it. So you're doing them a disservice by not marketing your product.
Yeah.
And so, and sales doesn't have to be hard sell. You listen to their needs, you know, you address their pain points, you address their wish point, you explain why you're the person who has the experience to help them, and all of those things. So it's about helping people over hurdles again. So I think there's that teacher in me.
Yeah.
That wants to help. And to me as a teacher, I loved helping children to shine, to be the best they could be, to overcome hurdles, to be proud of themselves and what they'd achieved, to celebrate their successes. And that's what I do with my copy clients, and that's what I do in my Parenting Business Connections Facebook group and membership.
Beautiful. I love that, from where you started with one in your group to how many you've got now and how much it's grown. And I have come to a taster session, and I just thought it was so lovely, the energy in there, and everybody that's there, they're there for that support and that help, but also that networking as well, because it's so important, especially when you're business owners, to know that you're not on your own, you know. And even more so if you're a parent and a business owner as well, it can be a real struggle. And you know, so taking that isolation away is huge.
Yeah,
Being heard is one of my values as well, because I think it means such a lot to show that you're not alone and that there is that support, however that looks, for that parent. So
yeah. And somebody, one of the people in my membership, she said, you know, I feel heard and understood. It's such an inclusive space.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's things like that. It's like, yeah, I'm doing the job that I intended to do. You know, 3.5 years later with the membership, 4 years later with the group, it's still ticking the boxes that I wanted it to tick. So,
and that's what it's about, isn't it? It's that you get challenged, like you said, being on podcasts, but the rewards that come from that, or the benefits, is huge. And I've had my business, my practice 4 years now, and I feel that I was always meant to do this, starting off in nurseries. So again, wanting to help, wanting to support families, and to where I am now. And it, when you look back at where you've started, it just like you go, wow, don't you? It's just that like, wow moment. It's almost like you blink and it's there, but it just feels so good as well. So thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing, you know, how you got into business, because I think sometimes my podcasts are around mental health and family support and things like that. But I think it's also important to know that process to be able to get somewhere, because we know what we want,
but we don't always know what the process is. And hearing you today, it's really reassuring that you can do it. You can have that dream, you can have that goal, because there's that support out there, and there is always somebody who'll know how to be able to help you. So thank you so much. That was so beautiful. So we come into the part of the episode where I ask you for 3 tips. I have to say it like that.
Yeah, right. Okay, so I think, I would say as a parent, trust your instincts, trust your gut feeling. And if something doesn't feel right, then it's okay to challenge others to get what you need for you and for your child. Because, we can all have those feelings of like, actually, are we just overthinking this, or, or not? And we can question ourselves. And at the end of the day, as parents, if we're questioning something, there's got to be something behind it. And it might be that we just need a bit of reassurance, and that's okay too. Or it might be that we or our child needs more support, needs something in place. So trust your gut instinct. And one of the things that, like in my health visitor poem, it said, the most helpful, like partway through, it kind of says about being a mother to a newborn, you're keen to do what's right, and all that kind of thing. And, that obviously you need to follow guidelines so you don't make mistakes. And then it finishes with, the most helpful thing I learned that stood me in good stead was early on at clinic when the health visitor said, take on board oral advice and all that we suggest, then make your own decisions and do what you think is best. So yeah, stick with your gut feeling.
Absolutely.
Taking care of yourself, because it means you're more able to take care of your family. I have to remind myself of that a lot. Having ADHD, I'm a bit gung-ho with things. I'm like bull at a gate and fling myself 100% into everything. And having been through ME as well, I have to think, actually, I need to take time. Don't always. I still need to give myself a good telling when I realise I've gone into ADHD hyperfocus and I've absolutely overdone it and floored myself. But, I do know deep down that taking care of ourselves makes us more able to take care of our families. Also nurturing your relationship with your partner. I've got a wonderful husband. With everything that we've been through, it's, we've had a lot of other challenges in our lives. And we've been through bereavement, Alzheimer's of a family member in the last couple of years. I've been through 4 cancer operations in the last 9 months, and I'm cancer free now. But we've had to fight for our son's education and for other people's understanding of our son. And the fight continues, and we have to advocate for him. He's bright, he's clever, and schools aren't built for neurodivergent children in many ways in the system. But in order to do those things and overcome those hurdles, having that team, that strength is important. So nurturing your relationship with your partner. And we've always done that. We've listened, we've talked, we've understood, we've given each other that time and that space when we've each needed. We didn't have anybody to babysit for a night out or anything like that, or weekends away like some people have. So our time together is a date day. It started off as a date day when our son was at nursery. And we had an instance there where there was a funny incident, because there was only about 10 people in the cinema. We went to watch Star Wars at the cinema where our son was at nursery, and he was about 4 at the time. And we looked across the aisle, and there was another couple from nursery doing the same thing. And, it's like, oh, so it is okay. Only we got to nursery, she'd only gone and told our son she'd just seen him just seen us at the cinema. It's like, what happened to solidarity there? But that's what we do. We have a date day if he's at school and things like that, to just make that time. So I really recommend that as a tip.
Definitely. So Thank you so much. So I'll add your tips to the show notes, and then if anybody feels that they'll be helpful for them, then they're there. Thank you so much. So where can people find you, Sarah?
So I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, under Parenting Business Connections, but also under Mummy Daze. Daze with a Z, like the book, because Baby Daze is D-A-Z-E. And then I've got, as I say, my Facebook group, Parenting Business Connections, for anyone who, you don't have to be a parent yourself, but if your business works, in your business you work with a lot of parents, so it's small business owners who work with parents. Most of our members are parents as well, but everybody works with parents in one way or another. So yeah, that's and on my website, actually I've got 2 websites now, because we've got a new parentingbusinessconnections.com website with everything about the group and the membership, and I've got the parentingcopywriter.co.uk.
Okay, thank you so much. So just before we finish, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I want to still be doing what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
You know, having the flexibility to be around for my son and my family, supporting people to feel clear and confident about their messaging, supporting other small business owners on their journey, and continuing to promote the book, because I think it's so reassuring. You know, when I looked at it, I kind of pushed it away for 5 years, and I got it out and thought, actually, I am going to see if I can get this published and find a publisher to take it on, because those feelings in the early hours and the reassurance that I found the poems would be able to give other people, I thought was just really valuable to get out there. So I want more mums to see my book.
Do you think you'll write any more books?
People have kept asking me if I'll do a sequel.
Uh-huh.
And like I have put together about 15 poems through the total of years, and so things like soft play and things like that, you know, all those kind of things, the humor and the craziness of everything there.
Yeah,
it's not there yet. I don't know whether I'll put another one out. I'd quite like to write a book for business as well, actually, to help the people that I help in business. So there's draft chapters around there. You never know.
You never know. Things in the pipeline, but you don't know where they'll go at the moment.
All the ideas, just have to channel them and focus. And at the moment, it's promoting my copywriting workshops, copy coaching workshops. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure to listen to you, listen to your story, and just where you started and becoming a mum, and then everything that's kind of come with becoming a mum, in it really, in so many ways. Yeah. And as I said, everything that you do is just, it's just so lovely. And yeah, I'm so grateful to be in your world as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So thank you, everybody who has listened or watched today. You can find this episode and all my others on Spotify and YouTube. I know sometimes having a video, it can be hard, but you can always just listen to it as well in the car. And if you listen to any episodes, it'd be lovely to have a review just to see how you found it. Thank you for today. I will be back soon with another episode. See you all for now. Bye.